Probably the most famous national incident during Doug's tenure in Montgomery County was the sniper incident that terrorized people on the East Coast. Doug was among those who prosecuted the snipers. They were, of course, also prosecuted in Virginia. Doug is a former assistant United States attorney. He's president-elect still of the National Association of Attorneys General. During his tenure as Maryland Attorney General, he's focused on environmental, health care, civil rights, domestic violence, and other issues. He's particularly interested in protecting youth from those who prey on the internet and other issues in general involving young people. Doug was a lacrosse player. He continues to coach lacrosse. I actually met Doug for the first time on the Bar Association softball field a dozen years ago. Doug is a likely candidate for governor of Maryland in 2014. He is all but announced, and if you'd like to announce it, Doug is a graduate of Yale and the University of Virginia Law School, and we're real pleased to have you here today, Doug. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity. I actually just came for two reasons. One, because David asked me, and two, because of the waffles. So I understand I stand between you and those waffles. So what David asked me to do is pontificate a little bit about the same-sex marriage issue here in Maryland. I know there's people here not from Maryland. We can talk about what's going on in your state as well. And is anyone here from Virginia? Okay. You are? I can bash the Attorney General a little bit over there. And I don't do taxes. I pay them, but I don't. That's not my area of the law. We do have, of our 467 lawyers, we do represent the comptroller, and we do deal with tax issues. I just don't happen to be the person that does that. Numbers have never been my thing. So what I'll do is start with that, and then if you have any questions, I think I prefer to hear what you're interested in. We could talk about a number of things, and just sort of work backwards. A couple of things we've been working on lately that might be of interest to you is the national mortgage settlement, the $26 billion national mortgage settlement, of which almost $1 billion comes here. We talk about the Affordable Care Act. We're the lead amicus in favor of the ability of Congress to pass laws. We can talk about the environment, or whatever you're interested in talking about. I did a show this morning on WBAL, which you saw, and they asked me about the most recent pit bull case that happened here, I guess yesterday, in the Court of Appeals of Maryland. We also are dealing with two other issues involving the potential appeals. One is this Court of Appeals decided to overthrow our DNA collection statute, deeming it to be unconstitutional for some reason. And we also have a case involving the Second Amendment, where a judge here extended the Second Amendment, now individual right to bear arms, outside of the home, and where that will go. So I say those things just to give you fodder for questions after I talk about same-sex marriage for a minute or two, or a little more than that, I guess. So let's get started with that. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we would not be having this discussion. 10 years from now, we won't be having this discussion. Every state in the country will have same-sex marriage. I would imagine 5 years is probably too far out when that'll happen. It'll happen before that. And the way it'll happen before that will be through the courts, because in my view, and I think it's well substantiated certainly by all the courts that have looked at this recently, most notably the Ninth Circuit, where the idea that the denial of people of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the ability to marry somebody who they love because of the way in which they were born, that is, being homosexual, it clearly violates the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. That will be determined either at the Supreme Court level or certainly by state. So what happened here in Maryland, which is the situation I'm most familiar with, was there's been a movement to change our law. Our law is that marriage is between a man and a woman. It's very clear, it's very clean. That's how it's defined in the statute. A number of years ago, I came down here and testified, probably 4 years ago now, in favor of changing that to marriage between two people. Obviously of age and not incest and so forth. It was always fun because there was never a chance there's actually going to be a pass for the first couple of years. So I came down and I said, as I often do, I assume I have all the, I'm testifying at this point, I said I assume I have all the Republicans in the room because there's no more Republican issue than same-sex marriage, right? Two people contract to do whatever they want, leave the government out of their private lives. That is, the way Republicans posture themselves. So I said that, and then one of the state senators, Republican, goes, wait, no, do you mean I can start having sex with my dog? And of course I said, no, Senator, we're not talking about your dog today. And so it was always a good time. But then we actually got to a place where people started thinking, well, actually maybe this will pass here in Maryland. We have an interesting, and I'll get to this in a second regarding the referendum, but we have interesting coalitions of folks that have a problem with same-sex marriage. And by the way, I did say this was a Republican issue. It's actually indisputably a generational issue. So I still have not met the person, not one. I'm sure they're out there, I'm probably a lot of them out there. I've not met anybody who's under the age of 40, 45, to say 40, who thinks this is even an issue. They don't understand why it's being discussed. They think it clearly we should have same-sex marriage. My kids laugh at me for talking about it. They're like, what? Why would anyone care? Yet people over 45, and as they get even older, have a very difficult time with it. Not everybody, but it's more of a generational than a political. And you sort of ask why, and I'm actually so deep in the issue that I don't even see the other side of it anymore. But I do understand there's optics issues for people that are a little older. And for some, not others. My mother's 77, and she's obviously very much in favor of it, doesn't understand what's the problem either. So that's sort of where you start. But then you look at Maryland, and if you sort of stereotype, which is never a good idea, people who have a problem with it, you have a coalition here on the other side of 3 groups. One, as I mentioned, Republicans. They don't know why they're against it, but someone told them they're supposed to be against it, so they are. Kind of like the healthcare thing. A lot of people are against it because every Republican AG, for example, signed on to the brief against it. Not one of them has read a word of the healthcare plan. But they're told they're supposed to be against it, so they are. Democrats are told they're supposed to be for it, so they are. And no one actually knows anything about the substance. But in Maryland, so we have all Republicans that are supposed to be against same-sex marriage, so they are. We're a very Catholic state. We were founded by Catholics. We're 25% Catholic in terms of population. And there are many people who think that somewhere in the Bible and somewhere in religious doctrine, it says that gay people aren't supposed to get married. Of course, it doesn't say that, but that's sort of the commonly held view. And then the third group that has really risen up on this issue is African Americans, and mostly church leaders. So, particularly in Prince George's County, that was where a lot of the resistance came. We have the highest African American population outside of the Deep South, 29.5% by population. So you have these 3 groups. Obviously, not all people. It's not monolithic in thought. Not all people in any of those 3 groups are against it, but that's sort of the dynamic here in Maryland. So it never passed in Annapolis. It kept not getting passed, and then it finally got passed this year. And since I started with that, let me finish with that. On that piece, and then I'll go to our role. On the legislative portion, it got passed this year, so what happens now is it will go to referendum. That we have not been a referendum state like, say, California in the past. It's been 18 years since anything went to referendum. And then something called the DREAM Act is going to be on the ballot in November. That was the first one. And the same-sex marriage issue will be the second one that'll go to the ballot in November. So what will happen there is people will go out and vote. The DREAM Act and same-sex marriage will be are going to be different in terms of that. Most people will be voting against the DREAM Act because they won't know what it is. They'll think that unless there's a public relations campaign to change that, they'll think it's the government giving free money to illegal immigrants so they can take your kid's spot at the University of Maryland. It's not that, but that's what people think. Everybody has a view on gay marriage. I think it's something like 4% is undecided. So this isn't really one of these issues where you have to be convinced one way. Then you have a view and either for or against it. You can change your view, but people have a view. They understand it. They don't need to be told what the issue is. People know what the issue is. So those both will be on the ballot in November. And many people think it won't pass. It's never passed anywhere. It's been on the ballot 10 times. Most recently in Maine, and it was the closest. It was extremely close there. The polls show more people in Maryland, by actually quite a decent margin, are in favor of same-sex marriage than against it. But it's very different when you're talking on a phone and you don't want to sound like, hey, I'm a little bit narrow-minded here. So I'm actually going to stand for it and then go in the booth and vote against it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Then, of course, the dynamic in this